Morning, guys. Hope everybody's well out there. I'm starting new painting now this morning, so I decided that I'd take you guys through the steps of how I do it and how I set up the painting and my process through starting and completing a painting. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on this landscape this morning. I have an idea in my head of what it's going to be like. I'll bring in references as I progress through the painting, but I might just do this in like 20-minute segments so nobody gets too bored. So, as I said, it's going to be a landscape, but the whole thing about it is get a nice bit of distance in it, a little bit of depth into it. I might put an area of focus into it as well, but that will all take shape as the composition starts to unfold. So I'll get straight into it. This is an Elements canvas. Whoops, excuse me. It's decent budget range canvas and nicely primed, so I don't need to put any additional primer on it, so I can get into it kind of straight away. So what I'm going to do is, again, with these landscapes, I like putting in, as I said, nice skies, distance, depth, water, trees, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to crack on and go straight into it. Color wise, using basic colors, cerulean blue, sap green, maybe a little bit of indigo, and titanium white, just to start off with it. So first of all, I'm going to start getting in my sketch. Great thing about landscapes as well, I'll also use a bit of liquid to start off with. Great thing about landscapes is you don't have to be too precise with them. You can have an idea of what you want. If your tree's lit to the left or not as tall as it should be, no big deal. Nature, everything in nature is totally different, so you don't have to be too precise with this. So straight away, I'm going to put in my kind of horizon line, roughly around here. As I said, this is a very rough kind of sketch. I'm going to have some distant mountains back here, tailing off as they go back. Going to have some sort of landscape and trees back in here. And I'm also putting in a body of water now. Again, roughly, might have a stream or a lake, or it could be, do you know what, it might even turn out to be the sea itself, but we'll play around with it and see. So roughly, that's where I'm going to have my area of water. I'm going to have the land kind of flowing down here. It might have a little path coming in here, and this area sort of drops down towards the sea. Going to have a big tree in this sort of area here, so the tree's going to cover up all around here. So what I'm going to do is switch to a larger brush. I'm going to start blocking in my sky. Always what I try to do with a sky as well is go in with the paler, use a lot of white and add to that color then. So I'm going to keep it kind of nice and light at the bottom. Just going to block it in. I'm using liquid here as well because next time I come back to this, should be nice and kind of dry for me. I don't want it a particularly, very summery blue sort of sky. So I've got a little bit of indigo in with cerulean blue and white here. And just map it out where it goes in. Using a decent amount of paint as well because I want to get a bit of coverage in this. Great thing about skies, if you can get them done right, you generally don't have to come back to them. You don't have to do too much with them once you get them in at the start. So I'm blocking this in pretty rough. And again, I'm allowing myself to be very, very loose with this because I don't have a full idea of what my composition is. It will develop as I work through it. But for the moment, just blocking in the sky area. So I'm just going to get all this kind of blocked in. Get a bit more liquid in that. Get it moving for me. And again, once I have a bit of coverage on this and a decent amount of paint, I can start coming in and soften it down, blending it. But for the moment, I'm just blocking in that area. Let's just see how this pans out. Getting through it there now. I'm going to put a little bit of indigo, not much, but just a little bit around here, just to tone this down a bit. And again, I will probably come in and put some clouds in later on, but this is just literally blocking off that area of sky. Start moving that down. A second there now. I'm going to move away from the canvas for 1 second, guys. Get another brush. I thought it was set up. So I'm back here again. I have my my heavy brush now, so I'm going to just soften all this in. You can see I got that kind of graduation coming in, a little bit darker towards the top, softening down as we come down towards the horizon or the mountain area there. So I get a little bit brighter towards here again. Liquid is great starting off paint like this because it gives a clean sort of blend, loosens up the paint nicely, and again it's great for when you come back to it because, you know, by tomorrow it should be nice and dry and allow me kind of progress again with it. So that's my basis of the sky in. Next I'm going to come in and start putting in my back mountains. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of that blue and indigo in it. I want to get a sense of distance in it, and anything with distance, you're not going to have any detail in it. You just get kind of basic sort of shapes. And the further back, I want these to kind of disappear back. So I'll have these ones kind of paler. Bring them right up to the sky. And as we come closer to us, you might get a hint of colour coming into them. But this is all, as I said, it's all just blocking in, getting shape into the canvas. Getting my basic sort of composition in. Might have them a little bit higher just around here as well. Get a little bit more colour, a little bit more the natural colour here because it's closer to us. So therefore you'll pick up a hint of detail or a hint of more colour, but as they fade back, you get that nice kind of paler kind of colour as they fade off into the distance. Again, this is very early stages, so a lot of this can kind of change. You can see as well, what I'm doing is everything in the background I'm getting in first. Just block all that in, build up the composition. A little bit darker up around here. And again, it's just a shape. We can put more detail, a bit of separation to them later on, but as I said, I'm only blocking in a composition here for the moment. Then we're coming back to the landscape now. As I said, idea here is that I'm going to have a river or stream running through it. Nice little hill coming down this area here, leading towards the water. So I'm going to start blocking in very roughly with a nice kind of pale green. Again, my base color is sap green. And great thing about using a base color is you can always come in and manipulate that base color. So you can be adding bits of yellow to it, bits of orange to it, an olive green to darken it up, bit of blue to kind of get a warmer kind of, or a cooler sort of green. But at the moment, just blocking in. And then you can be a bit heavier as I come down towards the foreground. I can be a bit heavier with my brush stroke as well. It's the same thing to get that sense of distance. Distance has no real detail in it, so don't try and create detail when you go into the distance. Just create a nice soft sort of finish, and then you can be a bit rougher towards the near area when you come down to emphasize detail, or to give the impression of detail. Again here, I'm going to give the impression that this area is flat, but yet we have a kind of a slope down towards the water as we move down towards it. So I'm going to keep this nice and flat. And then this area is where we get the slope coming in. This is where my tree is roughly going to be. But this area is where the slope is. So I'm giving that impression that we're shooting down towards that. And again, just using my base colors here. And again, I might even get a separation in here to show that the hill isn't all the way down. So I might lighten up this area just beyond here. Show that that's kind of separated a bit, and bring that right up again to the horizon line at the back here. So again, I'm only playing around with the idea of a composition here. I'm not looking for any great kind of bit of detail. I'm not looking for any great color and like that. It's all basic for the moment. It's just blocking in that shape and that composition shape. So here, as I said, this is where it all drops down towards that river. Get that sense of height in there. Again, I'm going to start breaking that up again, put a little bit of lighter colour in between it. Being very rough at it, very rough at it. It's not a mowed lawn you get in Powersport now, it's unkept area. And again, in around here, this is where my path is going to be coming in. So this, you might have a bit of a verge in around here. So again, I'm trying to get that drop into it. I might even throw in a little bit of burnt sienna just to kind of get, because we're getting closer to it, you might see a little bit more detail or a little bit more kind of color change. But again, my base is sap, so when I ever need to come back in here and play with this or kind of enhance it, I just use my sap green as my base color, and it kind of gives you that sense of kind of continuity throughout the whole painting, rather than throwing in 101 different kind of greens. You can do that, but if you keep to a base color, it means that you won't get lost with it. You'll always be kind of thereabouts on track with it. I'd imagine this area here now as well might be getting a little bit darker, because when I put my tree in, which I'm going to plant my tree, roughly that's where it's going to go. Height wise, it's going to be quite big. It's going to kind of go up quite high there. But again, I'm just blocking all this area in. And I'd imagine that this slope will continue on here. This slope might kind of continue on here off into the distance. I'm going to have sort of, could be lined with bushes and shrubs and all that sort of stuff kind of coming down. So this is going to come down like that again, down towards my path. And as I said, that's my kind of, my path could be one of those just kind of gravel paths or something like that, one of those country walks. I'm going to throw in another green here. This one is a Prussian green. So again, it will allow me to come in and darken up some areas, and I'm mixing that with the wet sap green that's already there. As I said, to continue that sort of continuity. I need to probably bring this up a little higher actually. I've kind of gone a little askew there, but not to worry, we're early stages, nothing that can't be undone. So I might just put a little bit of a white line to raise this bank a bit. So now that's where my bank is going to come in. Start coming down like that. Okay, tree wise, now what I plan to do for this tree is I want this like a big oak summer tree. And the mistake a lot of people do when they're coming in like that is that they will come in and they will put in a trunk and branches and all that. But basically a summer tree, my light's going to be coming in from the coming in now. It's reversed on the screen there, but it's going to be coming in from the right. So I want this real big. So I'm only getting the outline of it here now. Big oak tree, which will come right down to the ground. So I want something that's kind of dominating the painting here. So roughly, very roughly, that's going to be my kind of shape. So I'll start blocking in. I'm going to keep all my darks to this side here. And again, I can always come back in later on and put in, suggest the trunk of the tree, or suggest finer detail on leaves and stuff like that. And even branches coming in later on. I'll be putting sky holes in, all that sort of stuff will be later on. But as it comes out into the light, you're going to get lighter kind of colours out here. So I'm just going to do a little bit more on this here. And what I'll do after that, I'll pause it and I'll come back to that kind of later on. My dark green, because of the size of this tree, all your darks are going to be around the bottom of the tree because it's such a height, such density to it that you get a lot of the darks in around the base of it there. Okay, so blocking in, just shaping it. This will cause a lot of shadow on the ground there below as well, so I'm going to start putting in a few breaks in here. So I'm going to have a little break here, just block it all in, get a basic sort of shape of it in quite early. Doing these kind of X movements with the brush, little kind of random X's all the way in the face, so you're not creating kind of patterns as such. These don't really have patterns. So, and again, this is the sort of stuff I'm talking about when you come out and start getting little bits of leaves kind of coming out. But this is so wet at the moment. All I want to do is position this tree. I don't want to do much more with it than that. Just put it into position. Get some little smaller leaves kind of in the detailed areas. Show some little breaks in it. And all that sort of stuff. So I'll keep going with that a little bit. And that's okay. That's the girl just going out there. So you can see there. Now what I'll do is I'll give the impression as I move through this painting that I've got height here and that this is coming out over this drop. So I'll get my shadows from that tree will drop down like that. To give the impression that, as I said, it's on the cusp of that drop. So all this will be overhanging the drop. So you have more height than that. Therefore the shadows will be, give the impression the shadows are further away from the ground. Roughly, I'm not going to have much of a trunk in here. But roughly we're talking down around about here. That's roughly where the trunk of that tree will be. Maybe a little bit more, but I won't worry too much about it for the moment. It's just making sure I have a decent shape. Again, this shape will be manipulated, it'll be changed, it'll be added to. I'll show you sky holes later on, so I can break up the shape of this tree as well by using the background color of the sky. So always know the color I've used. I have cerulean blue, white, and a little bit of indigo into that sky. So I know when I come back in to add my sky and put a few sky holes in, very simple, I know my colors, so I can match it up kind of pretty easy. Okay, excuse me. So I'm just going to do a little bit more here, keep it quite dark to this side. You can see I'm using a decent amount of paint as well. Decent amount of paint. There's nothing worse where when you see people putting paint on the canvas and they're putting a little bit on, they're dragging it out and trying to get coverage. You know, much better to get a decent amount of paint on that and play with it, have a bit of fun with it. So you can see that it's all wet and wet. It's no big deal. It's just literally position my tree. And again, this is going to be a lot of shadow in here. That shadow will drop down. It'll cause, it's such a heavy tree, it's going to cause shadow around here as well. And as I said, this is still dropping into this hill area coming down to our path. So again, anything with a bit of distance, just throw a little bit of white into it. So this is, as you can see guys, very, very basic. We have a kind of composition. Imagine this is all going to be heavier greens here. We have a nice kind of composition here. It's something to enhance and play with. As I said, things will probably change as I progress through it. But for the moment, we have something pretty decisive there. But there's nothing that cannot be changed. Last thing I will do just before I wrap it up for this session is I'm going to start putting in water. Just block it in, have that part on. And again, to get, not necessarily looking to have moving water here, more looking to have kind of a body of water. So I'm applying all the colours have been used, well, not all the colours, but you can see I'm not even cleaning the brush effectively. I'm putting in, reflecting the sky in the water. That's what basically water does, it reflects what's above it. So if I've no big trees out in this sort of area here, they're not going to reflect in the water, obviously. This guy here is too far away to reflect in the water, but you might get more of that blue coming in here now from the sky. And you might also get a little bit of reflection coming in from the bank here. It's not a massive high bank, so therefore we're not going to have much in it, but a little bit of reflection coming in there. You might also have a little bit coming in here, and also some in around here. So I'll continue just blocking that in, and then we'll soften it out, and then we'll let that sit before we come back for the next session. Next session could be later on this afternoon, might even be tomorrow, depending how we get on. So what I'm going to do now, just soften that in to give that impression of water. Just put it across. And again, all I'm doing is positioning that water. I'm not looking to have a fabulous lake or any of that. I'm looking just to say, okay, well, that's my body of water within my landscape here. Might just darken up my bank a bit there, just to a little bit of dark in there. Bit too much liquid in that area, but not to worry. And again, here as well, I'll give the impression Just use the bigger brush to get rid of all that white. So you can see we have a little path that's going to meander through there, the water on the other side. Soften in some of the lines, make sure I have no, because I'm going to be leaving this now for a little bit, I don't want my liquid to dry in clumps, so I'm going around making sure that all that liquid is softened out. Any big lumps of heavy paint as well that I don't want to be there, I'll soften those out so they don't dry in either. I don't mind them in the tree because they might give the tree a nice bit of texture, but otherwise I'll kind of just soften them out. And as I said, there's my body of water. So a few things might change here. Like I have a nice area here. I might come up with an idea of what to put in there as well. But again, it's just early stages. It's all about getting that sort of depth into it. A little bit of tuft of green around the bank there. Again, you can see that there. Soften that in. You might have a little bit of heaviness around the bank here as well. And again, this is just to position. You might see a little bit there. You won't see it all the way across, because if it's out of view, you're not going to see the bank, i.e. this sort of area here. This is out of view, so you won't see the bank there. But as it comes into view around the corner of that river, you start getting in, suggesting your bank, getting that in. But you can see, guys, nothing to be afraid of here. Straight into it, get your composition in. Even though this is fairly basic looking, I'm looking at this now and saying, yeah, when I come back to this, there's plenty of areas I can go to, plenty of areas I can start developing on it. And that's what I want to do. I don't worry about how a painting's looking until I'm getting towards the end of it. I call this kind of playtime, have a bit of fun with it, block it in, get your shapes in, all that sort of stuff. This is the most enjoyable part of a painting, before you come back and put pressure on yourself then to get the detail in, to get your texture in and getting your colors in and stuff like that. So we leave it at that there. That's 21 minutes, nearly 22 minutes. That will do us for the moment. Again, I just see something quite heavy there. I'm going to soften this out. I don't want that to dry in. And then I might see you guys in the next day or two, and I'll take this on a little bit more. All right. Cheers for now, guys. Bye-bye.